Hi, good evening Paris, good morning San Francisco, Seattle, and all the Pacific area. And for those who are joining us between those two zones, I'm sincerely hoping that you are having a good day. Well, it's the third week of our 3 weeks courses, guys, building a store locator in React using Algolia, Mapbox, and Twilio. And we're gonna today finish our schedule, but first, few reminders. My name is Clement. I'm still a software engineer and a code mingler. It didn't change those past 2 weeks. I'm still an entrepreneur and coffee lover, sorry. And I'm still on these nifty social networks known as Twitter and Clubhouse. I'm also on Instagram, but who cares? And once more, this time disclaimer, I love Algolia, but I'm not an Algolian, so I won't endorse for the company. Great. Now this is done. Let's switch back to our content. So 2 weeks ago, we've scaffolded the app. Last week, we've added GeoSearch and Mapbox. And today, we're gonna ramp up the app with Autocomplete and the Click and Collect. But let's dive more into it right now. So we'll start by reviewing what we've done quickly because we have a tough schedule and we have an extensive things to do and we have thought how to do so. We're gonna present what is Algolia Autocomplete and we are gonna add it using our indexes and creating a plugin for it. Finally, we'll add the click and collect logic using Twilio and their SMS API. And finally, we'll open the discussion to see what we can do to improve our app. Without waiting more, let's dive into the recap of what we've done for the past 2 weeks. Okay, so this is where we ended up last Wednesday. We have on the left side a list displaying all stores which are basically and globally located around your position with stores ranked by popularity. So here I'm based in northern France next to Lille. So I see all popular stores next to me. If I zoom in, the map updates in real time showing the stores which are located in the viewport. So you see that now the shops located in Lille, which is less popular than some which could be located in England or in Paris. Well, they took precedences. So now, as I zoom in and as the viewport changed, well, the shops located in Paris, in Lille, shows now on the screen. This is based on different providers. The very first one and the most used is Algolia. Okay, Algolia is a search engine as a service. So basically, you provide all your data, you configure your indexes, and you can request it. I invite you to see last week live and last week blog post about it. And we also have on the app this huge and beautiful map which is powered by Mapbox, which is one of the numerous maps provider available like Google Maps, like Joke, like Leafleft, and much others. But we've chosen this one because it's quite simple to integrate and super powerful. And we've linked Mapbox and Algolia using Connect GeoSearch. I won't dive into it because we've done that last week and it's available on Algolia's blog. Now we got that all these services is hosted on Clever Cloud, which is a French company and which provides IT automation without hassle. Great. To remind you what we want to build finally here is that we got all this scaffold here. So I change my viewport. And here you see that I have a search bar, super powerful, when I can type research. So let's say that I want to locate a store in Bordeaux. So because I love wine, and here I see that I got all the shops located in Bordeaux from my Algolia's index, but I also got another sort of here listing, which is provided by the Mapbox API. This part is what we call autocomplete, and this is what we're going to build together. One other thing here is that now we got all these shops located on a map. We want the ability to get notified when something happened about our order. So here we will add this kind of behavior. When we click on the list, we have, when we click on the list, we have a small panel showing up where we can put our name, where we can select the pickup order. And when we click on place my order, we will get a text knowing when the order will be ready. This will be powered by Twilio, as written on the bottom of the screen. And we'll see that in the second part of this video. Great. Now we planted all the scene, and now we've see what we'll be doing during the remaining 55 minutes. Let's move forward and implement Algolia's autocomplete. No, sorry, this is the preview. But before diving into write autocomplete, let's redefine what is the autocomplete experience. Nowadays, and since a couple of years now, people are lazy. And when I mean lazy, it's super lazy. They don't want to search themselves for things. They want the system to be more intelligent than them on what they want and what they do. And two companies in the world know that more and better than ever. Those are Google and Amazon. Here, if I switch back to their website, if I go to google.com and if I go to the main page, when I'm just typing two letters, so WH, I have my previous research, WhatsApp Web, and then a bunch of things related to WH. So basically what Algolia is providing, but for the global web, meaning that they try to guess what is your need to improve the experience. And that's the reason why autocomplete is done. The exact same thing is done on Amazon. Here on Amazon, you have your favorite products, the product you saw. So basically your recent research, and you'll see what I'm telling that in a moment. But here, if I'm typing for, let's say, I don't know, maybe some books about research. So let's say maybe startup. You see that it autocompletes my things based on previous research, based on what people likes, based on a bunch of other stuff, and this is autocomplete. Regarding especially Algolia, autocomplete is the latest product they released something like 15 days ago, and it's a 100% free and open source library. It's basically a wrapper around the autocomplete experience. Unlike Instancer.js, autocomplete do not provide the widget. It just provides the environment to provide your users an autocomplete experience. So here, if on the search box you type I don't know, maybe iPhone, well, you have to handle all this experience by yourself. Autocomplete is working on top of plugins, on top of sources, and we'll see that in a moment. Basically here, you have what you have. We have a bunch of predefined plugins. By example, you have the plugin recent search to return what was the recent search on Algolia. You have the plugin on query suggestion, what we're going to use for the app. So here, if I'm switching back to my environment, so I'm going to open a new tab. Here, I'm going to type localhost 300. and here I don't have the search experience. So I'm gonna move to the autocomplete experience, which should appear here. So let's move to our code and start implementing. So because it's super heavy stuff, I've pre-made everything and we're gonna explain it together. So basically, what's happening there? Let me open my IDE. It's still a WebStorm because I'm a big fan of it here. And I have a bunch of stuff related to my app. If you go, if you navigate on the sidebar, I'm going to close everything here. And I'm going to uncomment the feature so that you can appreciate what it does. Here, I'm going to go back to my app here, and I'm going to uncomment everything. So here I have the autocomplete experience, which is commented. I'm going to remove it. And I've also uncommented this bunch of code, which we're going to explain in a minute. And I also need to uncomment the state management here on top of file, as well as the countries over there. We will explain that in real time. So I'm saving this so that the local server can reload, and because you'll see why it relies on its save the experience, we need to reload here the web page. So here you see that the experience appears, and if I start typing, let's say London, you have on the bottom of the screen, on the bottom of the drawer, all things related to my local indexes, Algolia's indexes. So it's basically East London, Heathrow, Gatwick, Stansted, so all the shops located in here, England, but also a bunch of other stuff which provides you don't know really where, and I told it to you in the beginning of this video. It comes from Mapbox API. So if we take a deeper look on how it works on my code, here you got everything on the repository already. There is a new component here named Autocomplete, a new folder, named Autocomplete. In this folder, you will find two files. The very first one, Autocomplete, is basically the autocomplete experience, the autocomplete input. And the other ones are here, the components I'm going to use inside of the plugins. So if I take a look at autocomplete here, it's basically an autocomplete taken from the JavaScript library of Algolia's Autocomplete.js, which works onto a use effect hook. So when the component is mounted, here I'm creating a search experience based on autocomplete here, defining its container. So you get the container ref, which comes from a use ref hook. So basically helping me to point a DOM node onto the hook. There is the renderer and the render stuff here, which allows you to leverage finely grained customization of, I would say, customization of the component themselves. And then I'm also spreading the props I'm going to provide to the autocomplete function itself. And then if an experience is already existing, I'm just destroying it. This is made only for development servers, because when you run your local environment, if you remove this line, you'll get a bunch of boxes stacking themselves by themselves. This is the root element here of the autocomplete framework. But this autocomplete cannot work alone, okay? It needs a bunch of other stuff named plugins, okay? So plugins is basically the root architecture of how autocomplete is working. So on this project, you have, I'm gonna increase the size of my IDE. On the root of this project, there is two plugins. One which is provided by Algolia, which is the query suggestion plugin. I just made a wrapper around it so that I can more easily use a component on it. If we take a look at it, it's using the Create Suggestion plugin, and then use it, and we add in it a bunch of other stuff. Okay, so it's the search client. You know what it is because we've used it on the instant search wrapper last week. The index name, same thing. You know what it is. The onSelect handler, which is a method which is called when we select a component. The onClick handler, which is the component which is the function, which is called when we click on an item from this plugin. And finally, something I call the hit component. So it's not typically a hit component, but it's something to remind you that it's linked to Algolia, because it's the component which will be called when the Algolia will find items here. So the Create Query Suggestion plugin here, as already told, is provided you by Algolia, and it helps you to find items from your indices. So the search client here, you know what it is, the index name, you search what it is, and the new thing here is the transform sources. And the transform sources here is especially interesting for two things here. The onSelect, which returns simply the onSelect handler, and the template. Normally thinking, if you are using regular stuff, if you are using as its bare minimum, you will only need templates. Because on this method, you will get an item, and the only thing you need to know here is to provide the thing you want to use for rendering this item. In my case here, it's the hit component. And if I look at the hit component, which is located under Autocomplete component, and here, sorry about that, my hit component, I called it here on my plugins, which are located on lines 61 and underneath. Here, Query Suggestion plugin is my suggestion component. And my suggestion component is here a very simple component which returns an icon, the shop center, and simply a highlight component which is provided by Algolia Instant Search, where I can and a component highlight on the city. So basically, when I will start typing, if I have something which looks like London or Lille or Marseille, and I will have the first letter colored here. If I look at that, if I type here Mars, you'll see that I have Marseille coming from my Mapbox plugin. We'll explore that in a moment. But I have also here those things. You see that all the Mars here in my component are highlighted. This is provided by Algolia. Okay, so we got this working. So this is the plugin provided, Query Suggestion plugin by Algolia. But the thing which interests me the most is this, the Mapbox plugin. There is a little history behind it, because a couple of years ago, Algolia released a package named Algolia's Places. It was a super great thing because it was just an input, and when you start typing in it, it displays all possible addresses. I've used it in my previous startup, which is dead now, and I've decided to make a wrapper around it to use it simply in React. And I was sad to listen to learn that a couple of months ago, Algolia has sunsetted this product, and it's now completely down, I think. So when we prepared this application, I said, but Mapbox has a great API to handle these things. Can we leverage autocomplete and create a custom plugin to do the exact same thing that Algolia Places was provided? And this is made using the Mapbox plugin, which is available here on the desktop, which is a simple function, okay? Nothing extremely complicated. The only thing you need to know is the Mapbox geocoding API. We will explore that in a second. So basically, create a Mapbox geocoding plugin is simply a function here, which use the Mapbox API here. So there is an endpoint, and we pass some parameters. Sorry. We pass the types we want. So do we want cities? Do we want point of interest? Do you want, I don't know, maybe just roads or forest or whatever? Well, you simply specify it. And then the country here is where Mapbox should look for the item, the query you're gonna split. And it's fairly simple. So you pass them as get parameters, so in the search query, and then you encode your URL request. So if you are searching for San Francisco, well, you pass this URL / San Francisco as encoded with the parameters, and it will return all things related. So this is the endpoint. This is just the lines which helps creating the endpoints. And when this is done, we use the debounce fetch method, which allows us to not query at each keystroke Mapbox. Debounce fetch is simply a timeout, saying that if you type something in a predefined timeout, well, they say the request is cancelled. It comes from Algolia, and the code itself is located under the lib folder. So it's asynchronous, of course, it's an API call. So when you get it, you simply take the response and implement it onto the thing we already saw, meaning the plugin scaffold of Algolia's instant search. So the get items here will then grab all the data and is the point where the data on the payload from the request is located. From here, these data are passed onto the item key of the templates. And from this template key here, we return another hit component, which I specified here, hit component. And this hit component is located onto my autocomplete component. And it's located as a Mapbox address component. I just put a marker here, which is simply to distinguish between the query suggestion and the Mapbox plugins. And then I'm just returning the item.placename. This item.placename is coming from, of course, Mapbox request response. Now I got that, I simply have to implement the autocomplete wrapper I made onto the autocomplete/autocomplete.tsx. So I put it here on my header, the header we made last week. It's here. And I'm specifying a bunch of other options. So the placeholder, which appears here if I switch back when the query is empty. The open and focus, which allows to expand the box. The on-state change, on-submit, and reset, which are a method which is provided by Algolia. You can look at the documentation. And finally, the plugins. Let's have a deeper look at the plugins. Here, the plugins is calling the use memo hook, which avoid continuous rendering and avoid extraneous rendering. And it's simply an object with some parameters. So here I'm creating the Mapbox geocoding plugin. From the option I wanted, I'm specifying the address component and the onClick method. In the same time, here I create the query suggestion plugin with the parameters I specify: search client, index name, onSelect handler, what's happening when I'm doing some stuff, and what's happening when I click on the item. Okay, and here same thing. If I change this for here set current coordinates, and here it takes an array with here its item dot What is my item here? It's create suggestion plugin. So this is item.geolog. Up. And geolog is here lng and item.geolog dot lat. Normally, if I've done my job correctly, when I'm typing, when I'm typing an address here, and if I click on, let's say, MRS, which is, it goes down to here and center onto here, the airport I wanted. If I type now Exupéry, which is the airport in Lyon, France, if I click here on the item, it goes right in Lyon here, Saint-Exupéry. So great, this experience autocomplete is working. It's super powerful, okay? But you need to take it in hand and work a bit around it to make it fully functional. Great, so now we got these autocomplete things working. So sorry, it was about Algolia, I forget about the slides. So we got this thing working, so now we need to add the click and collect logic. If you are in the development environment for not so long, you may not have heard of Twilio. But one thing is you already have used Twilio. It's the leading CPaaS platform, meaning for cloud communication. Cloud communication platform. Sorry. And it's the provider for tons and tons of companies around the world, from Mark and Spencer to Deliveroo. When you get a call from your Amazon guy telling that the package is at the door, the phone number is from Twilio. When you get a text to confirm your account in any apps, most of the time it comes from Twilio. When you get things from Instacart, from Netflix, whatever, when you get a text confirming, most of the time it comes from Twilio. It provides a bunch of services, SMSs, calls. It provides you serverless functions. It provides you verifications, a bunch of stuff. I'm not here to talk a lot about Twilio, but I'm just here to talk on how we can handle this. So basically, SMSs in our case can be used in 3 different ways. The very first one is the buy online, pick up in store. It's the experience we will build together. So basically, you give your phone number, and then you're getting a text saying when you can pick up your order. There is the out of stock information. It's the experience you can live on IKEA. So if you go to ikea.co.uk and if you go to the store, it's kind of slow, sorry about that. I may have something in my cache if I go to Algolia here and IKEA. Yeah, it's way faster. So here, let's say that I want this at Greenwich. It's the demonstration I made in the very first episode. If I want it in Belfast, which is out of stock, what I can do is giving my phone number, and when the item is back in stock, I get a text. And also I can have the all way around process. It's what happens on apples.com website when you order something online and you want it to pick it in store or to get delivered at home. Well, you get information when the order was confirmed, when it was shipped. You get information from the courier, and finally you get a text when it's on your letterbox, on when your UPS driver is at your doorbell. So there is a plenty of case where you can use SMSs, but here we will use this to send text when a customer places an order. To do so, It's fairly simple. You are full-grown developers, so I won't guide you through the process of creating a Twilio account. So basically, once you've logged in, you need an email, you need a name, a first name, whatever. Well, you know that. And when you are ready to log in, you hit on the console button, and you arrive on a dashboard stuff here, where you have, oh, that's a new email. Okay, that's fine. So we arrive, sorry, my interface is mostly in French, mostly in English. You arrive in an interface where you have two crucial information, which are your account SID, which is basically the ID for your account, and the OTH token. I won't show it live, of course, because it's the security key needed to sign all the requests. This is done. But the good thing is you won't need it for this project, because we're gonna do that. We're gonna do everything using the serverless functions. So from here, we need two separate things. We need to set up two things to use a Twilio correctly. The very first thing we need to configure is phone numbers, because of course we need to buy phone numbers. We will buy an American and a Canadian phone numbers. We won't buy a French one for two specific reasons I'm going to explain in a moment. So you click on phone numbers, you click on manage. You can also search here for phone numbers if you don't have it on your sidebar. And here I'm going to click on buy a number. And from here, I'm just going to specify that I want a Canadian phone number. So I'm just going to select Canada. And here I'm gonna search for locality. I want a phone number in, let's say, Toronto. I'm clicking on SMSs because it's the capacity I want. I'm just gonna buy one phone number with you. So here there is plenty of phone numbers available in Toronto. I'm gonna buy, let's say, this one. +1 647 370 98010. I click buy. It's fairly simple, super fast. I recap all the information. It's not free, okay? But when you create your account, you have something like $10 offered. And I'm hitting buy this. It takes 30 seconds. It's super fast. And here you see that I got my name. I'm gonna give it a friendly name, and I'm gonna name it Store Locator Canada. And I'm gonna hit save. Then to use these phone numbers, we need messaging services. Messaging services is basically a bundle of numbers where Twilio gonna route phone numbers. So basically, if you are a customer in Canada, wanted to buy in Canada, you'll get the text from the Canadian number, optimizing the cost and the routing and the delay of sending a message. Great. So now I'm gonna go to the top bar and I'm gonna hit messaging service. Here, I'm just typing mess, and I got messaging service. Hey, that's an autocomplete feature. And here you see that I already have a store locator messaging service. You can create one here, and you create one, and it's fairly simple. And the use case for us is notify my users. Okay. From now, I won't create one with you. You can create one if you want. That's super easy. But I'm going to go back in Store Locator to explore what is a message. And here, when you click on the messaging service, you have the sender pool. And the sender pool here is all the phone numbers located on this pool to send messages from. So here you see that I have an American number, which is 415, which is the Californian area. And I have also an alphanumeric sender. I can add senders basically. So you can add a WhatsApp number, so you can send text from WhatsApp. It's kind of complicated, so we won't do that here. You can add a short code. We won't do that here because the short code is extremely expensive, but it allows you to send a huge batch of SMSs. And the alpha sender is the reason why I didn't choose to buy a French phone number, because in France, the ARCEP, the telecommunication regulator, impose you to get a very extensive bundles of documents to buy phone numbers. And in France, you have to send marketing SMSs from an alpha sender. An alpha sender is basically when you get a text where the sender is not a number, but a brand. It could be Shopify, it could be Apple, it could be Amazon, whatever. When you get an ad, basically, you get it's coming from an alpha sender. So I'm gonna add phone number here, hit continue, and I'm gonna add here my Canadian phone numbers, and I click it, add phone number, and that's all. That's all. It's super easy. Okay, now I'm hitting properties of my messaging service, and I'm just copying here the messaging service seed. Oops. Oh, I know what happens, but I'm gonna copy it by hand. Now, to send text using the Twilio APIs, it's fairly simple. You just need to go down to functions here. It's serverless function, so it's gonna be called when you invoke it. It's based on Amazon Lambda for those who have experience with it. And same thing, you're gonna create a service. So I'm gonna do that in the same time as you. So here I'm creating a service which is named Store Locator Live. This name has an importance because it's gonna define the URL you will need to call for this document. So I'm going to click next here. It runs, and then here I have all my environment ready to send SMSs and to create write function to send SMSs. I need to configure a very few stuff here. So in the dependencies, I'm going to add one dependencies, which is date FNS. It's basically a wrapper to use dates, which is super modern and supporting tree shaking and manipulating JavaScript native date objects, on the contrary of Moment.js, which is the super popular library, which is now deprecated and which is using its own custom Moment.js object. So here I'm going to just add date FNS. That's all I need. Okay. From this, I'm gonna also select environment variable. We already told a lot about it, to just make sure that my Twilio credential here is enabled, because without that, I won't be able to send a message. Then I'm clicking on the plus file, and I'm gonna add a function. And I will need to specify a path, and here my method will be place order. I'm gonna hit enter, and here I'm gonna say that my function is public, because I need to be able to reach it from the outside of Twilio. I'm gonna get rid of everything here because I don't need it, and I'm gonna import two things from date FNS, which are parse and format, because I'm gonna first send a date as a string, so I need to parse it, and finally I need to format it in the final message. From here, I know that my function will send a message, and this method is asynchronous. So I need to specify that my function is async. Sorry. Now, I need another thing, is that to be running carefully, I need my function need to return a callback. From here, it takes null as an error if not anything happened. We won't handle error case here, and it's gonna returns here the response. We will specify about this response in a little while. From here, we just need to get some information. So we need to get the store selected, the customer first name, which is not necessary at first glance, the time of the purchase the customer choose, and of course the customer phone number. So here I'm gonna just grab data from my call here. So it comes from the event here, and I'm gonna grab the store, the customer, the time, and the phone number. And also I will need to grab the Twilio client we saw on environment variable to be able to send a message later on. So here I'm gonna grab my client. From here, I need to format the date passed in a very nice environment. So here I'm gonna create a formatted date variable. What is that? It's fairly simple. It's just a function which formats the date received by the function. This thing here is basically the sorry about that. So this thing is simply the signature of the parse method. I invite you to check date FNS functions to see more about it, and the format is basically like Moment.js for those who have used it. It takes a date and then the format. Also, I invite you to check the documentation about it. Then from here, I need to create the message. That's the super easy part. So I'm gonna just copy my message here, and my message will be something super nice, saying that, hey customer, your order will be ready to pick up somewhere on beep. Thanks for being a Spencer and Williams customer. I'm putting my semicolon, and that's all I need to do. Okay, no, of course, I need then to send the message. So here it's asynchronous, so I'm going to type await. And here I'm going to grab the client. Then from the Twilio documentation, I'm typing messages. Then from messages, I'm going to go to the create method. And here I'm going to simply pass some parameters. First, the body, which is the message itself. Then the messaging service seed, which is the thing we've configured a few minutes ago. And finally, we need the phone numbers where to send the text. And this is simply the to parameter. Once this is done, I can configure my response. It's slightly complicated. We'll do that very fast. We're going to call this method, and just to replace the context, we're going to call this method from a front end. And normally, I said normally, and then a server must call its own protocol and subdomain and things. And if not, you will have what we call a CORS, cross-origin sharing resources error. So we need to tell Twilio that our URL is 100% allowed to use these Twilio functions. To do that, we're going to configure it. I won't explain it much more because it's something you may have already seen. It's something really harassing, but it's the case for Twilio when you use another serverless function like Supabase or Firebase or whatever. You are falling onto CORS issues, and that's the reason I won't explain it. It's super annoying. Here I'm going to put it on top, and I'm going to comment it as CORS issue. You will find the body of this function in the GitHub repository. So here I take the response from Twilio response, and I'm appending the header allow origin, which is basically ngrok tunnel, HTTP tunnel. I'm adding the header saying that I'm allowed to do get, option, put, post, and delete methods, and that I'm also allowed to pass the content type header. Once this is done, I'm going to take this response and pass it in my callback. And that's all I need to do. My function is ready. You see that it's possible to send a text without a backend in something like what? 30 lines of code. That's the power of Twilio. Now we got that. Well, it might be super nice to add the component onto our web page to display that. So to do that, I'm gonna hit save here, and I'm gonna deploy this function, otherwise it won't be available. It takes 1 minute, no more. It's deploying. Okay, great. Now what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to move back to my code. So as the function is available, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just copy the URL to test it. And to test that, I'm going to open an IDE, my REST Explorer here. I'm going to open, a new I'm gonna open a new document, file, new. Here, I'm gonna paste this URL. So this is the URL. I'm gonna go with a post variable, and I'm gonna specify some parameters in the body. So I need here the store, which is gonna be Disneyland, just for testing purposes. I need the customer, which is me, Clement. Sorry if it's not at a good size, but I can't increase the size of this software. Then I need my phone number. I won't type it while screen sharing, because I don't want my phone numbers to be spoiled on the web. And finally, I'm gonna also add a date, so it's time. And here I'm gonna pass the param time, date, sorry. And it's it's a specific format. I would say it's day dash day and the year 2021. I need 2 columns, and here I need then the hour. It's 7:49 p.m. So let's say that I'm gonna pick my order at 9. And this should be fine. Let's double check the format. So day, month, year, double column, hour, column, minutes. Here, great. I'm gonna then here move into full face, because I don't want you to see my phone number. Let's type my phone number. And I'm gonna hit send. Okay, I got the 200 code. I'm gonna just remove my phone number and restart the screen live sharing. And if I've done my job kind of well, if you check my screen, I don't see if we're gonna see it on cam, but it seems not. Okay, it's kind of blurry. Okay, do I have things on message here? Nope. Sorry, it's on my personal message. I thought that I would share my screen. I'm going to share a screenshot on the. I'm going to share a screenshot using AirDrop here. So here, if I share that using AirDrop on my Mac, I got it. If I open it now on my screen sharing. Here, well, okay, I've made a bunch of tests before it. You see that I get, oh, there's an issue with the undefined, but the hour is pretty great. So I got my name, I got my date, and I got the undefined here, which is Disneyland. So store might not be correctly configured. Store here, I know why it's not well configured. I'm going to look over it. It's not something difficult. Okay, so let's switch back to my code, my IDE. And in my IDE, I made a component which is named BOPIS selector here. It's a fairly complicated component, so I didn't want to create it with you. It's available on the GitHub repository. And from here, sorry, there's a bunch of props. It takes as a prop the store here. Sorry, where is my? It takes the store, is open method and unclose method, and it got a bunch of properties like is loading, customer time, phone numbers, phone countries, etc., etc. And here, it's basically a bunch of inputs. Okay, so I have an input to choose the country, I have an input to choose the phone number. Here I have an input to choose, and I'm gonna just change it. For the purpose of this demo, so I'm going to change it for type password, so that when I will type it, you won't see it. And once this is done, I'm generating the JSX here, and what it's done then, once here, I'm going to move back to the app itself, and I'm going to add it here as the BOPIS component. BOPIS, I repeat, is for buy online, pickup in store. So basically, when I have a current store, I'm gonna just simply open it. And when I close it, I'm gonna set my store to null, and I'm gonna set the variable is open to false. I'm gonna save this here. I'm gonna uncomment this also. And finally, what I'm gonna do here is that I'm gonna move back to my app. So it's here. I'm just gonna scrunch down here, Spencer and William store here. Great. And what happens here when I click on the store? I remind you that I'm storing the data on the state, and when I click on it here, I got a nifty pop-up here which appears. I can specify, I'm just checking if I can type. Yep, that's working. Okay, so I'm going to type my first name. I'm going to type my phone numbers. And I'm going to say that I'm going to pick up the package at, I don't know, maybe 11 p.m. because it's open 24/7. Great, and I can place my order, but for now this button does nothing. So I need to send the message to Twilio. So I'm going to go back to my code here. And in my BOPIS component, I'm going to tell that the button on click will send the request. And as many of you know, for these kind of HTTP calls in React or in Node.js, well, on the JavaScript scene, I usually use a package named Axios, which is probably one of the best. There's plenty of others. There's Got, there's Fetch, there's also Super Agent, sorry. And here I'm gonna just write this down. So what's happening here is that when I call and send request, I'm grabbing all the parameters from the state or from the store. I can log them, but I'm going to remove this because otherwise you will see my phone number. And here what I'm going to do is simply that I'm going to make a post request to the function URL that I've added onto my environment file, which is here. And that's basically all. Okay, I'm just sending the request. What I can do here is that I'm changing the state from is loading true to is loading false. So what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to change the button here, adding a disabled here set on this.state that is loading. So if the button is loading, the button is disabled. And I'm gonna do also something here. If this.state.is loading, sorry, this.state is loading, then what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna place my order here. Otherwise, place my order, sending your request to fulfillment. It might be super fast because it's just an HTTP call. It's super fast. I'm saving this. I'm gonna switch back to my IDE. Oops, it's just simply things about reloading. And here I'm typing, so I'm gonna click on Lil, maybe. My name is John. My phone number is something. And I'm going to pick my package at 10:27. And I'm placing my order. And there might be an error because... Okay, because what I've done here is that I've been using the local host, which is my local machine, and in the Twilio function here, I told that the URL must be store locator. I've used ngrok. So ngrok basically is the exact same thing. So here I'm gonna just grab this URL. Sorry about that, I forget about it. I'm just gonna open a new tab here. I'm gonna type enter, and you will see that it's the exact same thing. You can also see this here on the side. So it's a bit small, sorry. It's basically just a tunnel between ngrok and my computer. So I'm gonna go back and click on the Lille's airport. It's here on the side list. I'm gonna add my first name. My name is John. No, just kidding, but you know it. And I'm gonna add my phone number. I'm gonna place my order. And I might have another issue. What the heck? Okay, there's an error, but I don't know why. We've been live for more than 1 hour, so I'm pretty sure that it's nothing. So I'm just gonna change it slightly, slide my phone numbers, and I'm gonna log this here. So on the request, what's happening here? I'm passing my phone number, get the country phone number. I'm gonna just log that. Maybe I see something specific. Let's check for errors in this payload. So let's click on a random airport. And I'm gonna pick my package at 1:09 p.m. and place my order. And here I see that everything went well and I don't get any errors. So it should be fine. I don't know why I have specific errors. Let's change maybe I made a typo typing my phone number. So I'm gonna retry it. I'm just gonna remove the logs because I don't want you to show my phone number, to see my phone number. I'm gonna remove it from this. The error you see when I reload is linked to the sidebar. And here I'm gonna just hit Clement. I'm gonna just put my phone number. So maybe it's because I've made an error by not specifying the date. Okay, and if I check this from Brussels National, I don't get any errors, and I think I'm going to get the text. It might come in a minute or two. So this is working. I got my things working with Twilio. Did I get the text? Not yet. But as I didn't get any errors, I guess I'm going to get it. Okay, fine. Let's switch back to the slides. So what's next? So we've finished our, sorry about that. Here, I know you won't see my screen, but I just get the text from SP Williams. So what's next? We've finished our app. There is plenty of things to do, okay? It's a very simple one. You can adapt it. You can take it as it from GitHub and put it your own repository, your own keys, and work with it. But you can add plenty of features. You can add, of course, a listing of your products. You can add a payment system using maybe Stripe APIs. Well, there's plenty of things to do. It's only the beginning. And as someone I really like said, developers can change the world with a text editor. You will find everything we've said during those 3 weeks on Algolia's blog. So basically there's one article per stream. So just feel free to check there. All the code is available on GitHub on Algolia samples /store locator. So you'll get everything from the start to the beginning. So there's at least 6 branches, one for the beginning of each episode, one for the end, so that you can follow along what we've done during this episode. And there's also a bunch of other stuff, components, and it will be updated almost in real time. Is there any question on the live? And here I rely on my friend Alex, which is behind the stage, because I absolutely don't know if there is questions. We are live for 1 hour and 12 minutes. Let me check if there's questions. I have a French accent. Oh, thank you. Well, I'm French, so. Okay, so let's wrap up. Thank you very much for attending this session. You were between, I don't know, maybe 150 every single week. It was a super high pleasure. So thank you for attending. I had a very, I have a very huge pleasure doing these live with Algolia. As a friendly remember, my name is Clément. I'm an engineer. I'm based in Lille. So yep. That someone told me that I had the French accent. So yeah, I'm French. And my handle on the social network are just below my picture here on the live stream. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach me. Feel free to reach Algolia if you have some questions. It was a super high pleasure to do this with my friend at Algolia's.